Welcome back. I was slowly taking off all this trim, this black trim. Well, it's not supposed to be black, but you can see it's already removed there. There's some over there in the back. So there's 4 pieces here and 1 in the middle. Just removing the black paint, and it was coming off really easy and just buffing it. It's aluminum, you can buff it pretty easily, well, in quotes, but either way, this piece is the only piece that didn't have these plastic fasteners the previous owner had put on there. These are metal fasteners, so I can't just break them, which is what I was kind of doing, because they were old and brittle, so they'd pop right off. But this piece actually, this metal piece needs to come off completely. And you see I already took some of this rubber off. This just goes between here, and then there's another little rubber piece here. And this, the bolt's already off, so you can see I can kind of move it. You can see that. But either way, while I jacked it up, I noticed that this horn's connected, this horn is not. Some other weird wiring going on over there, so it's kind of turning into a electrical problem too, but we'll tackle that later. For now, I think the way this is held on is there's a bolt behind the corner. In this corner piece, there's a bolt up like that, and then there's 2 bolts that hold this bumper on, if you want to call it a bumper, on each side. So I'll crawl under the car and show you that, and try and see if we can get this middle piece off. I haven't really been documenting into the buffing because it's pretty simple. You take a piece off and buff it, but this got more involved. So, and it gave me a good example, or a good chance to use this little new carport I built, working really well. So yeah, let's do that. So here we are under the passenger or driver's side wheel well. Those right here, these little metal, that's the piece that's holding on the black trim. But they extend all the way to the front of the car, and you can see some new friends we found here. That's nice. But either way, they're under this. You can't get under there at all. So this whole front bumper needs to come off. Here's the horn, and it's not connected. But I know the left horn works, so I'll probably unbolt this and look at that. And this is the wiring, I think, for that. And the headlights work and all that. So, but either way, I think you remove this bolt to get this assembly down. And then on this side, there's seemingly 2 bolts here, maybe 3, that I, thinking you can remove those, and then the whole, on both sides, of course. And then the whole front side will just kind of pop forward. We'll try that out, and then we'll tackle all these other terrible gremlins later. But for now, I just wanted to finish this one project until I can do the next one. So let's get the wrenches out and see what pops off. Well, that came off easier than I thought, so that's good. And yep, I was right. It's just 3 bolts on this side, 1 bolt there, so 4 bolts together. This side, it had these 3 bolts in a row that bolt to that section. With this like rounded head, well, actually they're all different. So this one might be original because it says K-Max on it. And then this bolt was on that section, and it had this stack of washers. So I'm not sure what that's supposed to look like. I saw this. This is more of that original Bahama yellow, which is super cool to see. So that's neat. And then on this side, there wasn't many bolts actually. This bolt right here was missing, so just these 3 bolts. And interestingly, one of them was like a normal hex, but 2 of them were a hex drive. It was this kind of bolt, and so I don't, obviously it's been taken apart because it's been used and abused. But it's actually pretty easy to get in here with a wrench like this, just standing on the side. But either way, I'm interested in tightening up whatever's going on here with the wiring once I sort the bumper out. I did buy 2 new metal bumpers, ones that this year had, 66. They're just metal, they don't have the rubber. So I think they bolt on before you bolt the whole thing on, which would make sense because there's just no way to get behind this bumper once it's in there. So that's pretty neat. And then obviously I want to see about this horn. See the overspray there. See what I can do about that horn. But yeah, that's it for now. I'm gonna take off these little tiny screws that, or I guess they're bolts, sorry. Nuts and bolts that hold on. Maybe I can see it here. Yeah, here they all are. These little pieces right here. Those hold on the trim. Take the trim off, get that done out of the way. This would be a good time to install any fog lights if I ever got those, but I actually kind of don't want to put the fog lights on. I want to put delete plates because I kind of like the way this is 3 gauge 66. It's like, I would assume this was like the cheapest 66 912 you could get. It doesn't have any options. And I know the 5-speed and the 5 gauges are more, more valued, but it'd be cool to just keep this as like, hey, this is what you got if you just wanted a Porsche in 1966 and you didn't have any the extra options. So that's later. For now, I'll just do this and feel like I did something on a car because it's been a while since I've worked on it. So thanks for listening. So I wanted to film this real quick before I put everything back together, but I wanted to match the horns. So these aren't actually the stock horns that came with it. They're a little bigger, and they're actually super hard to find for the 912. Apparently the 911s are easy to find, and 914s are even easy to find, but the whatever Bosch horns for 912s were like very, only made for a couple years. The one that was here was the stock. The one that was right here was stock, and that one was already there. They're 2 tones, and I think that's 335 hertz. And what I found from the forums is that the 400 hertz is the other horn. So with that one being 335 and that one being 400, normally that's kind of like a minor sound, but I couldn't find a 400 hertz horn that was this form factor. I kind of wanted them to match. So that one's a 420, and that's the low note, the 335, and that's kind of like a major chord. And interestingly, the 911s had those too. So the 911s were that major 335 and 420, but the 912s were 335 and 400. I don't know why, but that's just what I found on the internet snooping around. But so my car will sound like a 911, but that's okay. I did want to show you, if I can show what I did in here. Let me see if I can turn the light on. So I did want to show what I did in here before I muck it up. So I fixed, this is just a rubber hose between this tube and up into the light bucket, and this is a new horn. Those are all heat shrink wrapped. There's a spare cable here, but that was for if you had fog lights, so I just clipped that. So that's all secured up in there. This brace will go onto here. This is just a structural brace once I put the bumper on, and then the bumper actually bolts to these 3 holes. So I did confirm the horn works. Sounds great, and so that's good. I'll have a louder horn that'll sound right, at least period correct for a 911. But yeah, I did want to show you that. In order to do this, I had to pull everything out. So the bucket had to come out. It's just in there barely, and so did the corner light. So I had to pull all those wires out to slide this on and then put them back, which wasn't a big deal. I cleaned them up while I could, and I cleaned up some of the connections, so I'm good with that. And so yeah, the front is, the horns are done. That's good. I'll button this up, and it'll look a lot better. So these are the covers for the fog lights. Got these on eBay, obviously used. They have a little bar that goes across here, bolts on some bolts. This one has a little damage there, but I think I just drilled that out, kind of put a captive nut on there. I was thinking I'd have to weld it, but I think I can get away with just bolting it. And pretty easy. So these look like they're in pretty good shape, but they are green, obviously. So I'm gonna just sand these down. There's some rust here. Sand these down. If I need to fill them, I will. But then just prime and paint red. And I did take the bumper off. So I took it to a paint shop, got matching paint. Just for now. I mean, the original color is Bahama yellow, but I'd like to look good until I'm ready for a professional and paint the whole car. So you can see someone probably did this on professionally too. There's drips and all types of things. So I'll just get a orbital sander on here, see what I can find, and go from there. So back inside, I completely removed most of this paint. Actually, I chemically stripped it first and then sanded it because it was 2 or 3 layers of paint. The back side, I didn't completely break it down to bare metal, and even there's still some rust, especially on this one, is really bad. But honestly, I have some heavily rusted primer, so I think I'm just going to try it on this side, and then I'll have automotive primer on this side because it, is actually bare metal. But I don't know. It just says this is heavily pitted, so if I were to actually sand this down, it would just take forever, and then this piece would be too thin, and honestly, this piece would probably be undercoated. But I did drill out this one. The actual plate is still in there, if you can see that little plate. So I think what I'm going to do is, I hate when people do stuff like this, but I'll probably just tap this and drill a slightly larger stud. So these are, I don't know, 6mm, maybe do an 8mm stud, and just this one will have a stud, and I'll Loctite that in because there's definitely enough meat there, especially with that other plate on the back on that for 3 or 4, 5 or 6 maybe threads. So, but I'm gonna prime I guess I'll prime this side first and then flip these over and prime the other side because I don't want to have it lie on that side, I guess, with fresh primer. I don't know, don't think it matters, but I'll do that and see how it goes. So while I have these covers priming and drying, I wanted to look at this and do some very basic repair here. I'm really not good at body work, and I really don't have the setup to spray or anything like that with any kind of good quality. And again, the original color is yellow, so this is just to kind of make it look, make me proud when I drive it. So these are ugly, so it kind of just started with getting these, and so now it's a project is becoming bigger and bigger. But either way, I think you can see there's a little dent here, small dents here. This looks like it used to be where the license plate holder was here, and it got ripped out and the metal's pushed up there. There's some other rust spots there that I might be able to sand down. Now when I put the covers on here, I noticed there was a gap here. This is pushed back. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see that there's a wrinkle right there. So the car's so low, I wouldn't be surprised if, at one point this bottomed out and got pushed back. So that I'm not sure if I'll hit it with a rubber mallet to bang it back or just pull it back and see if I can do that. But it's easy to see here with I'm not sure if that's coming across, but that goes down and then back up. So I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be a smooth convex shape, not a concave shape. So I did get some matching paint from a local paint supplier, and interestingly they do have Bahama yellow, but if I do one part then I'm doing the whole car. I'm not really don't like getting into body work. I'm not going to Bondo anything, only because that's too much scope creep for me. But I think I will sand, bang these out from the other side. I do have just like a very basic metalworking hammer kit, and these are very small, so I think I can do this and just at least make it look better than it was. There's the big dent here is that this is the biggest dent. It almost looks like I can hit that with a rubber mallet and pop that out. So a couple dents. I'll sand this down, prime it, and then put, I just think I will have enough paint to just repaint everything maybe below here so that I can kind of hide, sorry, you didn't see that, below here. So the trim piece goes here. So when I paint it, I don't know how to, again, I'm not good at bodywork, so I don't know how to blend paint very well. So I'm thinking if I make the dividing line this and that, then I won't have to do too much blending, and I have enough paint to do the bottom side here. And that will fool your eye enough to be like, oh, it's one color, if this paint color doesn't match. But either way, let's see what happens. So it's been about 15 minutes, and just preliminarily, you know, it's looking better. As soon as I put any kind of force on the paint, cracks, pretty brittle. And so, but that was one area. You can see it kind of popped it out, but it definitely needs more work. This one was even worse. I'm actually pretty happy with that one. You can see where the actual the impact was that bent this out, but now it's very smooth and it's almost perfect there. It feels like it. There were a couple small right here, a couple small things right here that I just took this anvil or hammer and used that to just smooth those out. And this area, as soon as I hit it, it kind of cracked. The paint cracked, and I think there's a lot of Bondo on there on the other side anyways. So I'm gonna have to sand these down anyways to see how much more maybe hammering is required, and if none, then I'm good to go. I'll just kind of sand this whole thing down and get it ready. I did kind of hammer this out, but you can see there's so much, this paint is so thick on here. I don't know if that's focusing, but it's you know, it's like almost like a 16th inch thick there. It's hard to get this smooth, so I'm going to just sand this down and then revisit it. But you know, it's good enough. I still haven't tackled this, but I'll hit it with a hammer a couple more times and see how it goes. So this is a good angle to show you how far that thing's dented in, and I've been sanding so you can see kind of progress. There's a lot of Bondo on here, so it looks like the whole thing was covered in Bondo and then you know, smoothed. So in places there's probably like an 1/8 inch of Bondo. So it's going to be hard to not Bondo, but again, I'm really not going to. So I'm going to try and get this pushed out. I'm not sure exactly how yet, but this dent was here, and it's hard to see with all the other paint, but honestly, it's looking really good. You know, compared to a big dent, you know, so it's not that hard. These were the scratches over here that I banged out. I did get down to there, and you can see there's still this like stretch. So the only way to fix that is probably to shrink it. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. I don't have a shrinking hammer or the heat required to do something like that. Covered some stuff like that where there's a scratch and it's really deep, and I was doing this thing that I'm not sure if it's the smartest thing to do, but I would actually be sanding with this hand over some of these spots like this, and then using the sander as an actual like an anvil and tapping on the other side, just so it wouldn't be doing so much sanding or causing, you know, convex shapes in here, or concave shapes, I mean. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm doing. That's why I don't like bodywork, because there's so much to learn, and I don't have the patience most of the time, but also I just don't have the tools. So we're gonna get this good enough and see where it goes from there. So yeah, gotta bang those out somehow. On to the next challenge. So I think I'm making progress, but I can't tell. it's almost concave. It's definitely rippled. The issue is you can't really hammer and dolly this edge very easily. I've rolled over that edge a little bit just to try and get the whole thing to lift up. It looks really good here. This I banged up, but this section right here is really, there's a dip there. It's really hard to see, but it's easy to feel. And I think it's definitely better, but I'll keep working at it. And this is the driver's side one. Looks a lot better. Still see all those waves. This doesn't look good, it just looks better. So yeah, that one was significantly easier because I'm right-handed, so I was able to really get into it and get that shape back. This one is just as wobbly, but the shape is almost there. And again, this is the edge I rolled, so I need to get that edge back, but it's getting there. Yeah. So I took the covers over here just to see. You can see there's a line there. It was like maybe double that or triple that earlier. I'm gonna stick my finger under that. Keep in mind there's a rubber gasket or seal that goes around this when it's secured. So I'm fine with that. I'm not trying to get that better. I'll try the other one, the other seal over there, and see if the cover, fits. But that's a lot better. It probably looks worse on camera than it really is. That's maybe 1/8 of an inch, 16th. So I'm happy with that. Way better, and not too much work. But now I got to prime all this, paint all this. So again, that's why I don't like body work. I start turning into a perfectionist and say, oh, I'll do the whole thing, and it's like a scope creep nightmare for me. So I'm going to try and just get it good enough and walk away from it, so I can focus on other things. Okay, so just washed it off. I've been sanding it with like 120 grit or something like that, and of course I will need to go over the whole thing before I prime it, but I'm actually I just washed it off, so you can catch the angle off it, and so I'm really happy with it. It really looks really good. I did the covers on both sides, and there's only like an 1/8 inch gap, so that looks good enough. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Bang these dents out, and they're really looking a lot better. So yeah, I'm excited to get this ready just to prime it, and then put some paint on it, and some clear coat, I guess, because it is a single stage. I don't have a spray kit. It'll just be spray cans, backyard special, and then I'll have to put like a clear coat on it so it doesn't clear enamel, so it actually has some strength to it. But all in all, I'm really really happy with it. I just realized I will need to do both sides of it because there was some rust right there that I had to get off, so I will be painting just the whole bumper. Hopefully those 4 cans I have is enough. So let me get on this before it flash rusts, and hopefully the next time I'll have this kind of hung up, and I'll try and either prime it outside, or I do have the shed that I cleaned out there that I might be able to hang this in and prevent bugs and stuff from flying on it. But it will be a backyard special, so yeah, but that's kind of the theme for this channel, and do what I can on backyard. So thanks. So I realized the weather was going to get bad soon, so I primed it just right now. I'll have to sand this all back, but I'm using just Rust-Oleum professional primer. Stuff dries pretty quick, and it's pretty dark right now. It's not exactly night, but it's overcast, sunset. So yeah, at least I won't rust with the primer on there, and yeah, I can't tell if it looks good or not because it's so dark, but at least done with Bondo. So it's the next morning. I wet sanded this with 800 grit and it's dried, and I have the jankiest setup that I've ever seen. It's just bungee cord or to keep it upright and balancing on these two just to keep it right. But you can see it doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's wrinkly, like it looks terrible from bodywork standard, but looks better than it did. So that was the goal. I have the covers over here, so those are drying. Put two coats on there. But yeah, I'm gonna spray it like this, and it's windy outside and cold front moved through, so I'll be in here with a mask on. But yeah, that's what you got to do sometimes. And this is what just one coat looks like. So used one can. I got 4 cans, and it's looking good. And what can I say? It is what it is. It's red, so it's already kind of shining up. I just overlapped my strokes everywhere I could. Obviously, that corner probably needs to be gone over more, but it looks good. And I'm sure I'll have a bunch of defects in there, but I'll put a couple more coats on, and she'll be ready to go. So this is the last clear coat I did on the front bumper, and it looks pretty good. The history of that, it's hard to see. There is definitely some orange peel on it because it's painted outside, so I'm at the mercy of the weather, the temperature and wind and all that. That's a good example of some pretty bad orange peel, but like I said earlier, it's good enough. And honestly, it's a 10 and 10 paint job, right? 10 feet away, 10 miles an hour. It looks really good, especially considering what it looked like before with all this chips and dents and all that. And maybe I could even say the orange peel's intentional to to hide all the dings that I didn't do any Bondo, obviously, or any filler. But the actual genesis of painting this has been pretty. It's been the reason why I rarely paint, because what happened was I painted this, worked out fine, clear coated it, 3 cans of 2K, and so this was 2 coats, and that last coat was perfect. And then since it was outside, the humidity got to it, and the next morning it was all milky, so I had to wet sand that second coat. And so this is the 3rd coat I just did today early in the morning so that it can cure until tonight, and then I'll put it inside so it doesn't get any humidity, but the dew doesn't mess with it. But I had to wet sand this whole thing, 1500 grit, wet sanded it, and it did come out really good. The 2 blanks, the deletes there, fog light covers, that was a whole saga, because those were great with the regular 1K single stage paint, the red itself. But then I wet sanded one with like 800 grit, and by the time I painted it again, all of it wrinkled. It completely wrinkled, and I have no idea why. If it was not hot, it wasn't in the sun, so it wasn't like it dried too fast. I don't know if it was still off gassing or what. That's nothing to say that I tried to do clear coat that wasn't 2K, the same manufacturer, and that was a complete failure. So I actually ended up doing those twice. I did both of them twice. I stripped them down again. One, I guess I would say it's not completely twice, but it was basically done twice. But either way, they're done now. The covers look really good, and I'll zoom in on those 2 when they're installed. I'll wait a day or so for this to maybe 2 or 3 days for it to really cure and harden up, so that I don't when I bolt the Deco trim on there and everything, it doesn't indent the paint. But I'm pretty happy with it for now, considering the little amount of work I comparatively did and the very small amount of work. So that's good. I also wanted to mention these are the plates that are behind the fog covers, and this is the original one that came probably with the car. Only one of, when I bought these on eBay, only one of them had what I think is the original. I can't really tell. So I just took some square tube from some mild steel, cut it down in half, and drilled these holes in it, filed them so that they're oblong, so I can fit the bolts in there, and then these will be the behind. They'll screw into them, and they'll be behind the bumper for the plates. So I did learn that the very early cars, and this one's an early car because I think it was actually, it's a 66, but I think it was built in 65. They have ones that screw, actual plates themselves screw up into there, and that's actually how they're held. Those are harder to find. There was a guy on eBay who had one of them, so I'm not going to buy that. So I just decided the actual bumper is the same from 65 all the way to 68, I think. Maybe the long wheelbase have a different one, but 65, 67 all have the same front bumper, so you can use those other plates. And so instead of them screwing up into the plate, into the bumper, I'll just the compression, held on to the compression fitting with that bar. And you can kind of see what I'm talking about on the back here with that's supposed to bolt up through this hole, and then you can put a bolt there, but instead the plate will just go there, hold those in. So I'm pretty happy with that. Welcome back. So another thing that I've been doing, and it's hard to see maybe, is I took all the trim off. I probably mentioned that earlier. That is drying. While I was painting, I was also taking off all what is called Deco trim off the Porsche and cleaning it up. So this was painted black. I also bought a new one, and these are fairly expensive. I think this was over $100, maybe 200, just to see what the modern reproductions are. And I mean, the quality is really quite nice. And I don't know if it's coming up in the video, but honestly, the original is much better. The original is much better. It's stiffer, just in terms of the metal construction. And this is one that I completed with some new rubber. So these two pieces of trim, I think these are like the 10 millimeter. I forget but these are for the side, the actual side of the cars. They go on, they're smaller tracks. If you didn't have at 912S, you had the regular trim. So the S trim is unique, and all the other trim is standard. And so you can see just on this that came with the car, that profile is slightly different than that profile. Left and right, those were different photos, and that's a square trim that almost looks like S trim, but it is not S trim compared to what they have in their actual booklet here, which they provided, which was really nice. I mean, honestly, really good website. There is a secret to them. I'm using these nylon nuts again, so when I install them, they'll be secured with nylon nuts, and then I put the rubber in afterwards. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. And then I'll put that trim back on here, as well as that front bumper when the front bumper dries. That's been a journey, and I'll go into more detail once it's back on, but almost there to just kind of beautifying the trim pieces, and hopefully we'll have that together soon. So there's a seal that goes here to seal the hood and on top of the bumper once it's back installed. It's lying right there, and parts of it are there when it's here. But what I wanted to document is this lip looks fine. It's definitely rusted pretty heavily. But also there was this like tacky material that's still plastic that was all put into this lip here, and some rust behind it, so it held moisture, or maybe the previous owner put it in there to stop water from getting, because the back side of this is in here. I don't really know. So if anyone knows if that was stock, to have like some kind of filler between this bulkhead and the actual seal, please let me know. But I hit this with a wire wheel pretty hard, and I'm just gonna probably put some navel jelly on it and then just prime it for now to stop it from rusting. You can see there's some other issues here. That's rusted out. There's a small hole over there. But it seems pretty localized. Like this whole thing isn't, this is very sturdy, and this is the thing. So when it gets down to it, I might, weld that in. But for now, I'm just gonna seal it so it doesn't get any worse. And there's all that Bahama yellow coming through, which is pretty cool. But if anyone knows if there's supposed to be something here factory, I assume water gets in here and drips out, but I don't know. But I'm gonna stop it from rusting for now and put that seal in. So these are reproduction metal bumpers that I bought from, I think, Stoddard. One was left, one was right, and interestingly enough, one has this metal back and this bolts are diverging, and this other one has what I think is correct actually in a plastic back, and these bolts are converging. This one actually looks higher quality in terms of everything looks dipped in there, but look at those plates, they're not in line, so that kind of sucks. This one, the interior finish is different, so I guess the whole thing wasn't coated, and at least those are in line. But regardless, when I try and bolt these up on the bumper itself, with the trim in there and everything, nothing lines up. You can get one bolt in but not the second, or these bolts are too long anyway. So I think I have a solution, and I'm going to try it out. So let's see. So this is my solution. What I'm going to do is, or what I already did, is take some captive nuts, drill them all the way through, and then thread them. These were stainless actually, so it was pretty difficult, but worked out okay. And so what I'm going to do is, on the back of each of these plates, like right here, I'm going to drill those threads through and then make my own threaded rod here. And you can see with the way I drilled these, it'll focus, this will be able to pivot freely on this fender washer. So if nothing lines up, which it doesn't, I'll be able to kind of move these at different angles. Now, they will be constrained by the fact that there's only 2 holes in the bumper, but we'll see if this works. So inside, I have these backing plates on, so those are ready to go. And my modified bumpers are here. And you can see this full range of motion, so they can go in either way. I just got to put some rubber trim on there, and then I'll bolt them to the bumper, see how they fit. So here's the bumper on, and it's the pollen has come out, so the car is dirty, but the bumper's pretty clean, and that paint match looks really good. It wasn't that hard to get the thing on. I kind of balanced it on that with a jack stand and a jack, and was able to bolt it back on. The seals back on. These were pretty easy. You just got to make sure that you tuck them under, because they clamp onto that metal there. And pretty happy with how it turned out. Especially, I was really worried about these bumpers, because I thought they wouldn't look very straight. And yeah, I'm sure the discerning eye will see that they're not straight, that this one is cocked over this way a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. It looks pretty good, and honestly, you can kind of tweak them a little bit. I tightened them down, but they're not pinching tight, so I can actually move them around, and I'm fine with that for now, especially since you really have to stare at it for a while to see the errors there. Yeah, so I got almost all the Deco trim on. I have this and that. See, those used to be black on black. Now they have a nice chrome edge, and it's looking more 60s by the second, so that's good. I wanted to take it off the jack stands and go for a drive, because it's been about over a month since I've driven it, but I forgot I still have to do this side. So I'll put the rest of the Deco trim on there. I made a mistake. I didn't realize that this Deco trim literally has sheet screws that go in. You can't get to the other side of it underneath, but that's fine. So I have to do that. But yeah, give her a nice bath and she'll look really good. Weather's beautiful today, so here's my helper. She's helping scare the lizards away. But yeah, it's looking good. I'm happy with it, and you can really see those bumper guards really make it look complete. You know, this doesn't look like a project car as much anymore. Yeah, super happy with it for, you know, the little amount of effort professional work I really did. It's just enough to make it look good. So on to the next one.